find the stars in the sky.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I've seen you guys. Today is October 1st and I'm recording this in the morning while baby girl is sleeping and dad is kind of taking over. So I'm going to take some time to explain my labor and delivery journey as well as a little bit of my postpartum. Let's get started. I got my tablet here. While I was at the hospital, I actually documented and wrote down in my phone everything that happened, whether it was hourly or every couple hours. I wrote it all down. So this should be short and sweet. I will try to make it as short and simple and sweet as possible so that I don't take too much time out of you guys' day. So, okay, let's start with September 6th. September 6th, I went in for a regular checkup. This was a regular OB appointment for my 39th week and didn't anticipate anything. I was feeling Braxton contractions, but not enough to where I felt like I was dilating or anything. So I thought it was going to be a regular checkup. Got there. Of course, you guys know if you've been pregnant before, first thing they do, they sit you down, they check your blood pressure. And that's how the appointment begins. So they checked my blood pressure. My blood pressure was 144/84. And that is over the normal rate. So the normal rate for your average blood pressure is 120/80. Of course, the top line, which I believe is the cystic blood pressure, was 144. And then the bottom number was 84. Which is a little bit higher than normal. So because of that, my appointment was actually cut a little bit short and I was told that I would need to begin the induction process because they don't want to risk sending me home and my blood pressure gets higher and it frustrates baby or anything like that. So they wanted to start me with the induction process. Luckily, Rell was with me at this appointment. He had everything packed up in the trunk. So luckily, we were actually prepared to go into labor. But, of course, the dog was still out. This appointment was like in the afternoon, like 3-4 o'clock. So traffic and all that good stuff. Rell, of course, had to go get the house in order. Essentially, that's checking Bruno into the doggy hotel and just making sure the house is generally ready for like anybody to walk in because yeah, we have a certain system to where if people were to come in town, we could just unlock the doors virtually and then we'll have you know people come in. So we just wanted to make sure Bruno was out the way, make sure the trash was taken out, general stuff like that. So luckily they let us do that. We'll let Rell do that. They actually kept me and started to check me in, do all the paperwork and everything. They let Rell go, check the dog in. Rell, of course, brought our things up from the car, and then he also brought me food. Like we were able to really like get settled in before the induction process because they realized like, oh, that's kind of unfair to check me in and say, hey, you can't eat or drink anymore. So they gave us grace, let Rell settle, let us do everything. We actually didn't really begin the dilation process or the general induction process until around midnight. So before midnight, of course, they got my IV set, did all the paperwork. They asked me a lot of different questions, like what I want to do with my placenta and all that. And of course, I provided like my birth preferences sheet, which I was going to do a separate birth preference, like birth plan video, but I'm going to tell you now that it's pretty unnecessary, but we'll get there. To just give you guys a little bit more clarity. Okay, so we begin the induction process around midnight, which is on September 7th. So they found that I was only 1 centimeter and my cervix was a little right, but not as right as it would need to be. So, and that's the thing that I've learned throughout this process too. Just because your cervix is ready doesn't mean your baby is ready. And just because your baby is ready doesn't mean your cervix is ready for a baby to come. So like it's it's very interesting. So they found out I was 1 centimeter, and then they educated me about this drug called Cytotec. Luckily, I had already read up on Cytotec, Pitocin, like all the different drugs that pregnant women are given. I already read up on it, and honestly, I just wanted to see if they were going to tell me everything they needed to tell me. So like all of the risks with Cytotec and Pitocin and all those different things. So Cytotec is a drug that is used to help ripen or soften your cervix, to get your cervix prepared for baby to come. Okay, knew about that, and I was okay with it, but I also knew that there was 2 ways to take Cytotec, and a lot of people they don't really tell you this, but so you can do the Cytotec vaginally, and of course they put the pill up towards your cervix and it ripens and softens your cervix. Or you can honestly also take it orally. But of course, orally it would take longer for the medicine to kick in and stuff like that. But it's just interesting that a lot of the medical team won't really be the first to admit that you can also take it orally. I opted to take it vaginally just because I wanted the process to move on a little bit quicker. I didn't want this to take 3 or 4 days. so I was like, let me just try it. Tried the Cytotec. Luckily, I only needed 1 tab, which is like this little pill. And then they just insert it in my cervix. And I only needed 1. My cervix was softening hourly after that 1 dose of Cytotec. So I didn't need any more Cytotec. Everything was good. Hours go by, and I'm not dilating as quick. So yeah, so that was around midnight. I slept, I rested. The Cytotec did work to ripen my cervix, but it wasn't causing me to dilate at all. So the next morning, well, not the next morning. This is still Wednesday, because of course we started the process around midnight Wednesday. So when I woke up, daylight, whatever, around 8 o'clock, and I have my notes here just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yes, 8 o'clock a.m. on 9/7, September 7th, which is on that Wednesday, I was introduced to the Cook catheter balloon. I did not want the Cook catheter balloon. So the Cook catheter balloon is essentially, some catheters have 1 balloon on the end, and then some catheters have 2. What happens is it's this tube essentially that will go up your vagina. 1 balloon will be inflated in your cervix, and then the other balloon is inflated outside of your cervix. So I guess the thought is that, of course, as the balloons inflate, you will dilate more. I did not want to do this. It was on my birth preferences that I didn't want to do this. I just felt like it was too much messing with the baby. In my mind, like I was just feel like it was too much, because of course the balloon is getting bigger and bigger, of course, right near the head of the baby, because the opening of the cervix and things like that. So I was just like, I don't want to do this, but I did it because in my mind I was just like, things are moving a little bit slower. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I've been here since midnight, and I'm only still a centimeter and a half. So I was just like, it might move things quicker. The thought is that I will be 4 centimeters dilated by the time the Cook catheter, the balloons, are deflated and exited out of the vaginal area. I will put a picture here too, because I think it'll explain it a little bit better if you have a visual. So I'll put a picture here to explain it. So it did work. I was 4 centimeters by the time they pulled, because it's flat. It's just a tube when it goes in there. And then they inject the fluid and the balloons get big. They get to about 4 centimeters. They keep increasing in size. It was very awkward and uncomfortable, but it worked out. And they also did have a urinal catheter for me. So I was like in a bed because I couldn't keep going back and forth to the bathroom, with the, it was tricky to do it, to have the balloons inflated if you have to use the bathroom. It was really weird. So they gave me a urinal catheter. So I needed that as well. Which wasn't too uncomfortable, but It's awkward. But anyway. All right. So 4 centimeters. Cool. Now, mind you, I skipped the Pitocin part. I was introduced before the balloon catheter, so around 6 a.m. I was introduced to Pitocin. And I had already studied up that Pitocin can be kind of triggering to the baby, depending on how much Pitocin you use. So they educated me about Pitocin. I had already had the knowledge about Pitocin, and I told them, if you're going to start me on Pitocin, you're going to start me at the lowest dosage. I know that the Pitocin units go up to 30 units. So because it goes up to 30 units, let me start at 1 or 2. Like, let me start at 1 or 2. And they agreed. It was my team was very, very understanding. They heard me, they listened to me. I had no issues with the team. The team was very much like, what do you want to do? What do you feel comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? It's up to you. They were not rushing me, but they were just very much like realistic. Like, okay, we're just letting you know this is going to be a while. You know, this is going to take a little while. You know, they were just very straight up with me. But anyway, so they introduced Pitocin to me around 6 a.m., 2 units. I was fine with that. I had already been contracting, so I was like, whatever, like, I'm fine with that. So after the 2 units, that's when the balloon catheter came. So I'm sorry that I kind of went out of order, but yeah, that's how that happened. Yeah, so 4 centimeters, got to the 4 centimeters, and then let me make sure I don't skip anything next. Okay, around 3 p.m. on Wednesday, 9/7, I got another level of Pitocin, which went up to 4 units. So instead of 2, they went to 4 units. So of course, the more Pitocin, the more contractions, the closer the contractions are. But my contractions were already pretty close. So before Pitocin was introduced, my contractions were about 3 to 5 minutes apart. It's just that I was more so like calm. I was calm. So everybody was like, she's good. Because I don't know. In my mind, I was just like, the contractions are going to get stronger. They're going to get worse. So accept the fact that this is probably the easiest stage you're going to be at. Like, it was very much mental. Of course, everybody knows birth is very much 75% mental and 25% physical. I 100% agree with it. If your mind is right, your body will be right, and the work will follow. So yes, I got a higher dosage of Pitocin. Overall, I will put this out here too, just in case so I don't forget it. Overall, my level of Pitocin, I didn't exceed 12 units. So that's less than half to get to 30. So which was pretty good. They actually listened to my body and just kind of paid attention to like my blood pressure, the baby's breathing and everything. So it worked out. Everybody was listening, so it was great. Okay, so that was around 3 o'clock where I got an increase of Pitocin. By the time 6:30 came, I was 6 centimeters. So I went from 4 centimeters to 6 centimeters in 2 hours. 3 hours. So I was ready for that epidural. I was like, yeah. Let me go ahead, tap out, and let me get that epidural. Which you would think you would be scared to get an epidural, or, like you would be mental about it. But in my mind, I was just like, if I move, this medicine could trigger my body. It could trigger, I could get paralyzed, or the liquid can go somewhere else. Like, I need to be still. At that point, my contractions were it ranged from 2 to 5 minutes apart. Sometimes it was 2 minutes apart. Sometimes it was 5. It just depends. So you can imagine, like, getting my epidural, I was very nervous. And also, let's just be clear. I had requested the epidural at like 4:30. I didn't get the epidural till 7 because I had a neighbor in the hospital who was having twins, and she was having a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. So she had already had a child when she had that child cesarean, but she was currently pregnant with twins, and she wanted to have them both vaginally. So my neighbor, unfortunately, she had one of her twins vaginally. The other one didn't want to come down. So she had to have a vaginal delivery as well as a cesarean. So obviously she was the priority on my haul. Of course, you know, she's having twins, and she had one vaginally, and then the other one just wouldn't come down, I guess. So she had to have both procedures. So of course, anesthesiologist is focused on her. I'm waiting, and I'm like, okay, Melanie, be patient. It's just mental, relax. Even though like my contractions are 2 to 5 minutes apart, like my body is very much like, whew, girl, this is a lot. But of course, I opted to do the epidural because, one, I came into this induction process with blood pressure issues. I didn't want my body to overstress and overwork. And then baby's blood pressure goes up, my blood pressure's up, and then we're in an emergency cesarean situation. So I said, let me get that epidural before I start to like really kind of freak out low key. Not freak out, but like mentally, I just didn't want to like stress myself out. Excuse me. So I said, yeah, let me get that epidural. Okay, so I waited. I was patient. I waited from 4:30 to 7 for that epidural. Dr. Woods, he was amazing. Did my epidural in 5 minutes. And it was like a newer epidural process, which is crazy. I guess epidural is ever changing. So this new epidural kit it just seemed like a lot of steps, but he did it really quick. He did it in 5 minutes. Granted, I was having a contraction through this, through the epidural. And which is like, of course, there is a system. There's a screen that kind of shows when your muscles are tightening, and it shows when your contraction is coming. But of course, like the screen, okay, like I'm pretty sure it's like 90-something% accurate, but you know, you feel in your body when a contraction is coming. So they would communicate like, hey, let us know when a contraction is coming, and we will, you know, insert the needle and the drugs and everything after the contraction is slowing down or lightening up, or at the end of that contraction. So he was talking to me, and then I just tapped on the bed, and I was like, contraction. That's kind of how like my mental was. I was like, if people were talking to me, I would just put my hand up and I would say contraction, and they would understand like, okay, give her a couple minutes, she's going to a contraction, whatever. So he was talking to me, telling me about the epidural, and I stopped, and I was like, contraction. And you know, he understood that. But as my body loosened up and I was like, okay, you can start talking, that's when he actually inserted the needle. He told me what was happening every step of the way. He told me, you're going to feel liquid, or, you know, you're going to feel this. You're going to feel, you know, your nerves do this. Like he was just so good with the whole process. And he was also very much like, I don't want you to think that this is your saving grace. Do not think that this epidural is going to take away all the pain, because it may not, and it most likely will not. You will still feel pressure. You will still feel certain aspects of the labor. If your epidural wears off, you know, we'll give you more meds, but at the end of the day, this is not a saving grace to where you're going to feel absolutely nothing. You're still going to feel something. It's just the epidural eases the pain and numbs certain aspects of the birth experience. So he was just very clear, like, this is not your saving grace. You still gonna feel something, which is great that he kept it real with me, because like, yeah, we'll get to that. Matter of fact, let's just get to it now. So after the epidural was great. They rotated me into three positions every 30 minutes. So I was on my left side for 30 minutes. Then I was on I started out on my back for 30 minutes. Then I was on my left side for 30 minutes. Then I was on my right side for 30 minutes. And every 30 minutes, they kept rotating me just so the meds could get all the way down, you know, through your system. Cool. I instantly felt relief. Like my contractions, I didn't really feel them as much anymore. I felt like I saw like my belly moving and stuff, but I didn't really feel too much. So I felt good instantly. And of course, the epidural system is a catheter system. So there is a wire, you know, still in my back that inserts the drugs. Like there's a remote that comes with the epidural. It's connected to the wire. The wire it's really tiny, but it's in your back. You press that button and you get more meds. You know, press the epidural button, you get more meds. And, you know, it helps flow. So every time they rotated me, not every time, but a couple times when they rotated me, I would press that button just to like get the meds flowing. Like I just wanted to stay, you know, as painless as possible, of course. Okay, so got that at 7 o'clock. And then the next, okay. All right. So around 10 o'clock at night, my Pitocin was increased again to 8 units. I guess because my contractions had lightened up, they didn't want, of course, the birth to be elongated, so they gave me 8 units of Pitocin. The monitors on my belly kept sliding, which was annoying, which nobody told me about this. But anyway, the monitors on my belly, which monitor the contractions and the baby's heartbeat and stuff like that, kept sliding. So they had to do vaginal monitors. So there was a vaginal strand to check for baby's heartbeat, and then there was a vaginal strand to check for contractions, which is like, it was so annoying because it had to go in vaginally. But it was kind of convenient because you don't have these hard monitors on your belly sliding off, or, you know, they have to come in every couple minutes to rotate if the baby's moving. So it was annoying and it bothered me, but I also had the epidural. So I was just kind of like, I don't really feel too much right now anyway. So, you know, whatever. But looking back, like I probably shouldn't have opted to do that. But anyway, it happened. Let me see. So moving on. Now we are into 9/8, September 8th, the morning of September 8th. And by 4:30 a.m. on September 8th, I am 7 centimeters and my cervix is 90% thin and ready to go. Baby is in position. Baby's been head down really the majority of the pregnancy. So baby is good. I'm 7 centimeters, 4:30 a.m. I'm like, okay, we ready. We getting there. I'm excited. You know, I'm thinking like, okay, so for sure my baby's coming today. Most likely my baby's coming today on 9/8. 4:30, no, let me see. It was like 4:45, like after they had just came in to check and see how dilated I am. I started to feel like pain on in my left pelvic area, my left pelvic bone. And I was just like, on my left, well, I didn't say left pelvic bone, the left side of my pelvic bone, like my hip, I started to feel some contractions again, some pain. So I was like, oh shit, my epidural is wearing off. Now, granted, I just got it not too long ago. You know, I just got it like a couple of hours ago. So I'm like, oh shit, do I need to rotate again? So they started rotating me every 20 minutes because I was just like, hold up, like it's wearing off. I wasn't panicky. I was just kind of like, oh shit, like let's hope that this don't wear off on my right side too. But anyway, so I started to feel some pain, some pressure and everything on my left pelvic bone. So I was just like, oh wow, let me press this button, whatever. It's doing whatever to just kind of like level it all out. So I never got relief again for my left side. So like epidural never really kicked back in for my left pelvic bone. So it wore off a little bit on my left side, but luckily I didn't feel anything really on my lower left side. And I didn't feel much of anything with my stomach or anything. It was just more so like my left hip bone pelvic area. So like, of course, rotating or like the peanut ball, because the entire time I had a peanut ball. So of course, as you're positioning and you're feeling contractions, I just felt some pressure and some pain on my left side. So I was just like, dang, like this is crazy. Same thing happened to my sister. Her epidural wore off on her right hip, which is crazy. So it wore off on my left side a little bit, and I felt everything on that left side. Not my left leg. Like I didn't really feel anything in my left leg, but that left hip, like bone pelvic area, like I felt everything from around 5 a.m. on to the rest of the pregnancy. Anyway, just wanted to make a note of that. All right, so by 6:45 a.m., I was 9.5 centimeters. I was so happy. I was so proud of myself. Unfortunately, my neighbor and then like other women were still the priorities. There was a lot of cesareans happening. There was a lot of like emergency cesareans and a lot of scheduled cesareans happening. So of course, these women are priority over me because I plan to push vaginally. So, I just knew it was about to happen because I was 9.5 centimeters and I just kept feeling the urge to push. Okay. The doctors, the team didn't, my nurses were always in there, but like the doctors, the people who were gonna like help me vaginally push and everything, they didn't come back in till 11 a.m. So from 6:45 to 11, I was contracting. Like, I would say every like 1 to 3 minutes. It ranged from like 1 to 3 minutes. And like the nurse, poor nurse, I was just like, girl, give me something. Like, I don't know. Because I wasn't feeling pain. It was just more so like the pressure of pushing. I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I'm about to push this baby out and nobody's here. But it was really just in my mind because when at 11 a.m. they checked and baby still wasn't low enough. So that's the thing. Like, my cervix was ready. I was 9.5 centimeters dilated, but baby wasn't. There's a chart. I'm going to put this chart up here. I was at, I think they said like -1 or something, but they wanted, never 1 or 2, whatever is not in the threshold. But anyway, baby needs to be +3 for you to like, of course, be into like a successful active labor to successfully push the baby out 100%. My baby Harper was higher in my pelvic bone. She needed to get lower. So from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., we did practice pushing. So practice pushing, from their terminology, is to help baby get lower. It's not necessarily to say, hey, baby's about to come like in 5 seconds. It's just to help baby get into position and wiggle down through the pelvic floor. Yeah. So we did practice pushing for an hour and a half. I mean, I was pushing my little heart out. Baby did get lower, but not low enough again to where like she was out of my vaginal canal or whatever. So yeah, hour and a half of pushing. Then they say, you know what? We're going to give you a break. You know, stay in the peanut position, peanut ball and everything. And now those pushes were those pushes? Yes. So those pushes were kind of like a 60-degree angle squatted position. But I also was pushing on my right side. Yeah, I was laying on my right side. They were holding my legs. I was pushing on that side too. It was the craziest thing. Like, I did not think I was gonna be laying on my side pushing, but I got the most progress actually doing it that way, pushing on my side, which is crazy. So that actually helped out. I had a break. They let me do a break from 12:30 to 2. Now, granted, this was probably lunchtime too, so I feel like they were just kind of like, all right, she needs a break. She's been pushing for an hour and a half. We don't want her to tap out, so this is a good time to everybody just kind of lunch break and, you know, do what they do and come back. So 2:00 p.m. we come back. They see where the baby's positioned, and then they start to talk to me about the vacuum process. Now, I initially heard vacuum and I was like, bro, I don't know what y'all talking about. I ain't trying to do none of that. But it was either the vacuum or the forceps because, of course, baby Harper, I think Harper was kind of stuck, essentially, in my pelvic bone area. But anyway, they introduced the vacuum method. At first, I was like, nah, I ain't really trying to do that. But then as I thought about it, I was like, I'm willing to do anything then that cesarean. Like, I'm not trying to do that cesarean. So, you know, and I don't want to do forceps because forceps, I'll put a picture here. It's like tools to maneuver the baby out. That seemed weird. But the vacuum, I didn't look up pictures. I didn't do much research on it. I just knew that the vacuum was better than the forceps and like the tools or whatever. So the vacuum system, I still have to like push and like put in all the work. The vacuum system just kind of, how do I explain it? It was the way they explained it was so interesting. But anyway, I push. The little contraption is like a little tube, will attach, as I push, Harper's head will attach to this little tool, and the tool will maneuver Harper out of my vaginal canal. So that's how it worked. I did all the work to push Harper, and then the vacuum says, whoop, like it sucked Harper's head at the top, and then it positioned her this way and then pulled her out. That's how the vacuum works. Now, this is the part where like I kind of get a little emotional, but I'm gonna be okay. Okay, so okay, so this was around 2:00 again, where they introduced the vacuum method. Well, around like 1:45, they told me about the vacuum method. 2:00, we ready. Like, you know, I'm like, the contractions are 1 to 2 minutes apart, so I'm just like, let's do it. Let's try it at least. Like, let's try it. Yeah. So they get me ready, get me set. I begin my pushing. Now, granted, it's like 16, 18 people in this room. I guess a lot of people didn't really use the vacuum method, or was it like a new thing in this sector, or like a lot of students were just trying to see it. The room was packed, and I didn't give a damn. I was like, I don't care. The more, the merrier. Like, I don't give a shit. Let's just get this baby out. But anyway, so I start the pushing vacuum process. That I'm in the, like I would say maybe like a 40-degree angle. I was a little bit more back and then pushing, more on my back. They told me I was maybe like 5 or 6 pushes in with the vacuum method. You know, as I'm pushing, they're just waiting for the head to attach to the vacuum. But anyway, they told me 5 or 6 pushes in. Oh, by the way, we can't do this more than like 9 times. So I guess this specific hospital, they were like, we're not trying this method more than 9 pushes because we don't want any skull fracture. You know, we don't want any like skull what was the word they used? We don't want to damage or fracture any of her skull or brain development. So we're not going to do this more than 9 pushes. Now, granted, I was pushing in increments of 3. So let me describe that. So they were like, okay, I felt the contraction coming, and they were like, all right, let's get ready to push. And then you would push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like for 10 seconds. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale. Pause. Then you go back into the next push. 1, 2, 3. So I was pushing in increments of 3. So they told me push 5 or 6. Oh, by the way, we can't do this more than 9 times. And I'm in the bed like, what? You tell me this now as I'm pushing? Granted, I think she used it. Well, I don't even think, because she told me afterwards that she used it as a motivation piece. She used it to like get me in the mindset like, all right, if this don't work out, they're gonna try to forceps, or they're gonna talk to you about a cesarean. So I was like, oh my God. Of course I didn't react. I was just like, I had to channel my inner self. Like, I had to like really channel my inner self. And but before this vacuum process, my doula, she was virtual. My doula was telling me like, girl, you're going to have to step outside of yourself and give this all that you got, because if this doesn't work, they're going to choose the forceps or the cesarean. And, you know, at this point, it's been 24 hours. I skipped that part. I forgot to tell y'all that part, but at around 7-8 centimeters, they manually broke my water. So, of course, the longer your water is broken, the more prone you are to infection. So we had to move along with the process so that me or baby wouldn't get infected. Which they thought I had an infection, by the way, in my amniotic fluid because my water was broken too long. But luckily, thank God, after baby was here, we got tested and everything, I wasn't infected. But anyway, okay, so back to it. All right, so I had to channel my inner self, and I said, okay, so you telling me I got 3 more pushes. That's basically what they were telling me. And so by push number 8, I was on push number 8. And everything kind of went blank at this point. Not saying that I forgot. I'm saying like I completely was, it was like an out of body experience. I was no longer there. By push number 8, it was, I told God, I closed my eyes. This was before I had started contracting for the 8th push, for the 9th push. I told God, I said, God, I've given it all that I could give. I need you to step in with this last push because this is my last push with this vacuum method. And if this push doesn't work, then they're going to introduce forceps or cesarean. So I told God, I said, God, it's nothing I can give at this point. I've done everything I can do. I've tried every method. I've tried the medicines. I've done everything I can do. I need you to step in because it's no longer me at this point. This is going to be all you at this point. You're going to have to step in. I'm letting you take the wheel. And that last push, I exceeded 10 seconds. I pushed for I held that push for maybe 12, 13 seconds. And God stepped in. She came right out at that last push. So by the grace of God, 9 pushes, only 23 minutes with the vacuum method, not including the practice pushing, the hour and a half. But for this vacuum method, it only took me 9 pushes and 23 minutes. 23 minutes to get her here with the vacuum method, which was so crazy. The room just kind of erupted like, you did it, because that was it. That was the last chance I had to do it. Like, it was the most insane experience. And to think, when she came out and they sat her on me, I felt her, but my eyes were still closed, and I was just like, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. Thank you, God, in the name of Jesus. I had a whole praise moment. I didn't even look at her until I had to thank God, because it was not me. I had tapped out. I tapped on that 8 push. I was like, this is, I'm a step away. This is just God at this point. So it was surreal. I took a minute to praise God, and then I looked at her. She did not cry. When she came out, she didn't cry. Her eyes was wide open. She was just looking around like, so, I ain't really impressed with this. She was very much like, I'm not impressed. And I was like, after I praised God for a minute, I looked down and I said, hi, Harper. And she was like, oh, I know that boy. It was the weirdest thing. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. Such a beautiful moment. 6.6 pounds, 20.5 inches long. September 8th, 2:23 p.m. Baby Harper Rose was born. And I saved my sweet part for the last part of this labor and delivery conversation. Your Rell was the epitome of it was just such a beautiful, he was just so spot on. He was beyond a husband at that point. He was everything: husband, coach, doctor, nurse, everything. He was more in tune with me and my body and what I was experiencing than the people who do this on a day-to-day. He was very much like, I see her hair. This is what I see. You're doing this, you're doing that. Melanie, take the stress out of your face. Push the stress to your uterus. He was very much he was. This is when I knew I married the perfect person. The doctor was instructing me on what to do. First, I don't know how he remembered all of this, but he remembered everything the doctor had said and was telling me it as I was pushing. And he was also counting. So he was counting 1, 2, 3, 4. He was counting, and then in between the counting, he would be like, you're putting too much pressure in your face. Push the pressure to your uterus. He was very much everything. He was everything in that room. I couldn't have done it without him. I know there's a lot of journeys where the women are like, oh, I did this and I did that and I went through this, I went through that. Uriel went through the whole process with me. He was there when I got the epidural, there when I got the balloon catheter, there when my I don't want to get too personal. I'll be general. My body part started to swell and look differently. Like, he saw all it. Of course, like, my belly, I didn't see none of it. Uriel saw and experienced all of it. He was there with me, in it with me, hungry with me, tired with me. The whole 24 plus hours he was up with me. He was just there. We were in this together. The only difference is literally he wasn't going through this physically. But of course, I think him seeing it physically, and of course me not being able to see it physically, it just brought us so much closer together. Like, I trusted Uriel 100% before we went through this journey, but the level of trust now is super exceeds. Like, it's so different. It's timeless. It's priceless. I can't really explain it, but that day we came together in a way it's indescribable. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. I honor him. I'm so proud of him. And I look forward to doing this again in 2 or 3 years with him, because I know he's going to be my rock. Like, I ain't really got to worry about too much if Uriel is there. Like, yeah, I didn't eat, drink, I didn't do nothing. Just ice chips. I didn't even drink liquids. Yeah, they didn't have me do any of that. But anyway, Uriel had the ice for me. Uriel had like eucalyptus rags for my head. He had the humidifier on. He had my music playing in the background. Uriel it was just top tier. I have no complaints. Uriel was just that much to this process. He was with me, and I'll never forget it. It was a beautiful thing. So, yeah, I can be general about postpartum. I will straight up say postpartum is trash. Like, and it's not like, of course, it's not the hospital's fault. Like, the hospital did a great job. Like, I felt heard, I felt seen, I felt respected, I felt honored, I felt educated. I felt like the team was very honest with me. I also had an array of people I was working with. I worked with nurses who were from the Caribbean, who were from Africa, who were from Europe. It was an array of different people I was working with. Different nurses, travel nurses, residents, doctors, MD, all those things. It was just, I had an array of people I was working with. I did not feel I was in danger at all. I felt that I could trust these people, and these people trusted me. And they let me do my journey the way I wanted to do my journey. So I respect it. Shout out to Emory Midtown. They did an amazing job. Yes. So, but postpartum overall, I think the U.S. standards of how postpartum is completely trash and unethical. You tell a woman, hey, congratulations, you had a baby, get some rest, relax, you are amazing, blah, blah, blah. But then you move me to postpartum, and I got to pump every 3 hours. I have to document how many poopy and pee diapers my baby has. I have to, of course, learn how to walk again, because the epidural is being removed. I have to, like, slowly learn how to walk again. I'm on pain meds. I have to gain comfort in using the bathroom again, because that's a thing too. And I'll get into more detail about that if you all want me to in another video. But it can get very personal. So I'm just trying to, set boundaries for myself. But overall, yeah, postpartum is trash. 48 hours postpartum. That's how long they give you, of course, to heal and to, run the test and everything on the baby, on you, to make sure you're good. I just think it's unethical. I think at minimum, it should be 3-4 days. You should be allowed to be in the hospital and heal and actually get rest. But when the nursing team is coming in every 1 to 2 hours to check the baby, to make sure you're pumping, to make sure the baby's eating, to make sure the baby's using the bathroom, to check your vitals, to check the baby's vitals, to do a vitamin K shot for the baby, or to do, the standard vaccinations, and like to run all those blood tests and then to check your blood and to check your IV and then to do this, to do all of that in 48 hours, me and Rell didn't really get much sleep at all. No, I say overall, Rell probably got a little bit more sleep than me. I probably got 4 hours a day of sleep. And it wasn't a consistent 4 hours, like 1 to 4. It was like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Like, it was crazy. And in postpartum, I didn't even change Harper's diaper once. Rell changed her diaper the whole time, or the nurses did. I was not getting up. I was like, no, I'm only getting up to use the bathroom. I'm not getting up to do anything else. And I skipped that part too. In my transition stage, which is after birth, I had a 2-degree tear. It can go up to a 4-degree tear. I'll put a picture here. But I had a 2-degree tear. Of course, they stitched me up. But they stitched me up after they retrieved my placenta. They retrieved my placenta. Rell had the cooler ready. Like, I'm taking my placenta. And my placenta doula came and encapsulated my placenta so that I could take my placenta pills. So that's what happened in my transition stage. But of course, I had a 2-degree tear, so I was healing. Healing in different ways from that. Using the bathroom, walking, things like that. Swelling and everything. It was a difficult thing. Me and Rell didn't get rest until we got home. And when we got home, Harper slept for like 7 hours. She slept for like 7 hours because that's how much they interrupt you in the hospital. It's very unethical. It's to the point where like next time I have a baby, I am making them keep me 3 to 4 days. You're not sending me home in 2 days and I only got 3 hours of sleep each day, like 3-4 hours of sleep. That's crazy. Which is crazy because when we were about to check out, actually, my blood pressure was higher than it was when I was pregnant and when I got induced. My blood pressure was like 150 over 80 something. And they were like, oh, we're going to keep you an extra day to monitor your blood pressure for preeclampsia. This happens a lot. But we're going to monitor your blood pressure. So I'm like, all right, preeclampsia, I'm not surprised. Like, it's a very common thing, whatever. They kept me for an extra day to monitor my blood pressure. And then I was like, dang, I'm glad we stayed this extra day for them to monitor my blood pressure. Fast forward a week later, Harper is a week old. I go back for a general checkup for my blood pressure. And then they tell me, oh, your blood pressure is still high. We're going to readmit you for preeclampsia. I'm like, what the fuck? So Rell is home alone with Harper and I'm readmitted. And I'm like, of course my blood pressure is high. Like, it was crazy. But I needed those 2. It was a day and a half. I was there again for them to monitor my blood pressure. They gave me some medicine. And now, thank you, God, my blood pressure is now good and regulated. But it was a lot. It was a lot. And of course, we had family come down. We had Rell's sister come down. Rell's mom is coming down. My mom is coming down. Everybody weekly is coming down to help us out now. But that was a crazy time. Like, to just have a baby and then boom, get readmitted. It was so like triggering for like me. And it probably set my pressure up a little bit more, honestly. But luckily I was able to like consistently pump. I got a lot of milk, while I was readmitted and everything. They had the pump and everything there. It was great, but it wasn't great, but it was good that like my body still kept up in a positive, like healing way. So by the time I got home, I was good. I was set. I was, and then family was coming in. So it was like the perfect time. We had Rell's cousin. Thank you so much. They were able to come pick me up from when I got readmitted. And so like Rell didn't have to stress. He just had to focus on Harper. Luckily, we're both on paternity and maternity leave. So it all worked out. But yes, postpartum has been tough. It's a transition, learning your baby, getting back to yourself, not losing yourself. Everything is changing. Hormones are changing. Mood is changing. Your appetite is changing. All those different things. So it's definitely been a transition, but a rewarding one. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to have a general positive experience But yeah, the U.S. got to get it together when it comes to postpartum. It's insane. To the point where I've recommended a lot of my friends, like, go to another country to have a baby. That's what I would do if I could do it. Go to Europe, you know, be there, be in the hospital for like 2 weeks for free. Like, I mean, of course, it's probably like a process and like, you know, you have to have dual citizenship and stuff like that. But like, I just feel like it's worth it to have a baby in another country because like the turnaround time, like, you really expect me to have this baby and like be up and like basically working every 2 to 3 hours, pumping every 2 to 3 hours, you know, changing diapers, you know, breastfeeding, you know, learning how to breastfeed, learning how to latch, doing all that stuff every 3 hours. And then you're coming in my room every 2 hours to check my vitals. And like, bro, it's unethical. It doesn't make sense. All because, like, of course, they probably want that bed to be turned around for another family. But it's just like, bro, it shouldn't be that way. It's insane. Like, I went through a major surgery and you're just like, oh, heal. Congratulations. Go to sleep. Get some rest. Oh, but we're going to interrupt you every 2 hours for 48 hours. Like, make it make sense. But anyway, but still, shout out to Emory Midtown. They did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. I felt safe. But my next time, yeah, y'all gonna be keeping me for a couple of days. I'm not leaving. I don't care how much it costs. Like, you not about to just do that to me for 2 days. Wake me up every 2 hours. Like, you're not about to do. We're gonna spread this out. You're gonna wake me up every like 5-6 hours or something. Like, we're gonna have to spread it out. We're gonna have to figure something out. But yeah, I know this was like a very long video. I'll try to like snip some things out, but yeah, that was my birth journey, my labor and delivery story. It was a lot. I will be doing a question and answer session on IG Live on Sunday. So make sure you guys check that out. If you do have more questions for me, I can answer those there. Mental health check. I am great. I am happily overwhelmed. That's the statement I like to use. Like, I'm happily, grateful, but of course I'm overwhelmed. I'm learning a new life. I'm learning a new schedule. You know, I'm learning everything about a human. Like, you know, it's tough. It's crazy. But luckily having your Rell here, having family come down, it's been great. It's been a huge help for us. So I love it. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody for helping us, sending us gifts. Thank you so much. The Uber Eats gift cards, DoorDash gift cards, oh my gosh, they have been lifesavers. It's just been, you know, a happily overwhelming experience. Postpartum was my greatest fear. I realized, though, that I'm mentally stronger than I thought I was. And I think overall, with labor and delivery, you just never know what you need until you're there, which is why I think birth plans and preferences are pretty pointless, because everything on my birth preferences and plans, you know, like, it really wasn't met that way. Like, the setting was like dim light, this is the position I want to push in, mirrors, you know, things like that. Like, the little things worked out, but like those big things as far as like the drugs you want to use, the epidural, and what you don't want and what you do want, that stuff goes out the window, because when that pain hits you right, you might try anything. And if you really don't want a cesarean, you're going to try anything, you know, to get your baby here vaginally. So you can have a birth preferences or plan sheet, but when you get there, your body gonna, like, what your mind wants is gonna be different from what your body needs. Cause my mind was like, let's do this as natural as possible, but my body said absolutely not. You got blood pressure issues. So it's just, you know, it don't, at the end of the day, it really don't matter. Cause I didn't have not one nurse come to me and say, oh, I have your birth preferences here that you emailed over to us, that you printed out for us. Look at it. Do you like this? Do you want it? I didn't have not one nurse come to me like advocating for my birth plan or preferences, because they probably were like, you're getting induced. Like, that, the plans are over. like your birth preferences don't say, hey, if I'm induced, this is what I want. And it's like, even if it's what you want, it might not be what your body needs. So, yes. And I almost forgot to mention and show you guys, like, I mentioned my mental health check, my body check. So I have lost 32 pounds. Harper is going on a month. She's going on a month. So yeah, in 2.5 weeks, I had lost the 32 pounds. So I had lost like my baby weight. And I think that was from a lot of water drinking and a lot of like breastfeeding and pumping too. So let me show you guys. Stand to the side. Oops. Not too much, y'all. Not too much. But this is where I'm at right now. And what's interesting is I didn't have any stretch marks until after I dropped her out. So it's very interesting. Oh, there she goes. It's very, very interesting how the body changes. Okay, Harpy, I'm about to get you. Let me get her. Okay, y'all. Here is Miss Harper Rose. Let me sit you up. Hey, boo-boo. Ooh, that light is bright, huh? So cute. I'm obsessed with this little baby. Hey, girl. Hey. She's like, mama. This is baby Harper. She has just been a joy to like watch her as she like, look at that smile. As she like, we teach her different, like, introduce her to different shapes and everything as a newborn. Girl, are your eyes crossed? Okay, no. But yeah, just watching her grow, like, even from like 6.6 pounds to now she's like 7.5. It's just been a joy to watch. Hey, I got you. Yeah, she's a good baby. She sleeps in increments of 4 hours, which is great. Greater than it was in the hospital, because hospital we were all screaming every hour, 2 hours. So we were all going through it, huh, Harpy? Huh, Harpy? Boop. But yes, say hi. She's like, no, Mama, I think I'm getting ready to post. Okay, so just wanted you guys to meet her. Thank you guys for tuning in, and continue to watch our channel, watch her grow, and hopefully Rell will pop up here one day when he gets some free time. And we will see y'all next time. Right? We gonna see them next time? She like, I'm gonna think about it.